Hi, I'm Amanda from Fit and Active, and I've got a video for you now which is a complete beginner's guide to Pilates. It goes through the basics, what to expect in a class, but also some of the technical elements like the core connection and the breathing. So if you're a complete beginner to Pilates and want to know what it's all about, please carry on watching. Alternatively, take a look at my website for all the classes that I teach in Bedford. If you're not in Bedford, of course, I've got some videos that you can purchase and you can play them and work out to them in your own time, in your own home. Whatever you do, I hope you enjoy Pilates as much as I do, and maybe I'll see you sometime soon. Take care. Hi, so what is Pilates all about? Pilates is about retraining our brain to use the body properly, to improve our posture and guard against injuries. Each move begins with setting the body up properly, so that's your shoulders, your back and your hips. Then we recruit our core muscles to lock our body in that position, and then we usually challenge our core muscles to hold our body in the right position, usually by moving our arms and legs around. This could be done standing, kneeling, seated or lying, mostly lying, but there are other moves as well. Each move should be done with precision and control, a concentration that brings mind and body together. We also use a different type of breathing. We breathe into the rib cage. It's called thoracic breathing. If you can imagine, our tummy muscles are drawn in all the time, so we can't take our air into the abdominals like you would do, for instance, for yoga. So if you have done yoga before, you might find it a little challenging to change your breathing style, but don't worry, it'll come with time and practice. So with the breathing, the precise movements, we aim to take Pilates intuitively into your everyday life. So you automatically put your body in the right place, recruit the core muscles before you attempt a task. So I'm going to go through a couple of the basic moves now. If you've got your shoes off, some nice stretchy clothing and a space just to lie on the floor, stretch your arms and legs out to the side, that's all you need. I'm going to take us over to the mat and we'll get started with a few moves. Hello again, here we are on our mat then, ready to go through a few basic moves. Before we do that, we need to set the body up, of course. Starting at the feet, when we work with Pilates, we always want to go hip distance apart with the feet. So try this. Take both feet together, kick the heels out to the side, bring the toes in line, and that will automatically find your hip distance apart. Most people will go a little bit wider with their natural standing stance, just because you're more balanced the wider your feet are, within reason. But for Pilates, we try and teach the brain to use the body in line. So hips, knees, heels, all in line. Knees, we try and avoid locking those knees back. So always think about keeping them just slightly soft if you can. The next is the pelvis. Pelvis and the hips are really quite important to Pilates, okay? We need our neutral spine, which is a natural curve to your lower back. Some people are naturally arched, some people naturally slouch, and we're trying to retrain the brain to use our body in that natural position. So I want you to think about your hips as a bucket, full up to the top of water. So if you were to tip your pelvis forwards, arching your back, your water would flood out of the front. Equally, if you went backwards, the water would tip out of the back. Think of that bucket being level, so that the water doesn't spill at all. Another way of thinking about it is you'll find your pubic bone physically, find your hip bones, bring them into line in your body, and then you've got your natural spine. So this is individual and unique for each person. Okay. So once you've found your neutral spine, we need to switch our core muscles on. That's the muscles that wrap around from hip to hip, in between the hips and the ribs, and also down the back. Also pelvic floor that zips up underneath. First of all, the core muscles though. So I want you to place your thumbs on the bottom edge of your rib cage. Your fingers go down to your hip bones. Now breathe in to the chest and feel the thumbs being lifted slightly by the bottom edge of your ribs. As you breathe out, try and bring fingers and thumbs a little closer together. So you're shortening this distance, contracting this distance. That should feel a little firmer now. And again, breathe in. Feel the ribs lift. As you exhale, bring them back together. Find that tension. Another way of thinking about it is when you put on a freshly washed pair of jeans, you have to draw in a little bit sometimes to do that zip up. It's the same sensation. Keep that tension in there. Pelvic floor, you're just thinking about stopping yourself from going to the toilet mid-flow. So you're just drawing in, but not too fiercely. Keep the connection in your core and maybe a little in your pelvic floor. Close your eyes and breathe in through the nose. Breathe out through the mouth. Can you maintain that core connection? Keeping the eyes closed, I want you to place one hand on the front of the chest, one hand on the tummy. This time when you breathe in through the nose, I'd like you to direct your air to the palm of the hand on the chest. Feel the chest lift slightly. Breathe out. Feel the chest melt down. This is what I was talking about earlier with thoracic breathing. We need to breathe into the chest so that the core muscles stay switched on. So as you breathe in and out, you shouldn't feel any effect on the hand that's holding the tummy. That should stay drawn in and firm. It is easier on the breath out than it is on the breath in. And don't worry if you're finding that's quite a lot. You can open your eyes now. I'll remind you moment upon moment throughout the class just to keep breathing, taking the air into the chest, keeping the core connected. So don't worry, there's constant reminders in that regard. So we're going to go into a little bit of balance. Let's roll the shoulders back first and roll them forwards. When you do a Pilates class, you will do a slower, more productive warm-up. But for the benefit of this video, I'd like to move on to some of the moves. So we're just going to turn the head from side to side and bend the knees and circle those feet out. So we're going to go into the roll down, which is used in most Pilates classes. You don't have to turn to the side, I'm doing so for demonstration purposes. So heels once again underneath the hips, and if you're not sure, take those feet together, kick the heels out, bring the toes in line. Core muscles in. Don't worry if you lose that, I'll keep reminding you. You breathe in at the top. As you exhale, drop the chin to the chest, drop the arms and shoulders forwards. I want you to imagine yourself as a piece of wallpaper. Slowly coming unstuck, peeling yourself away from the wall. Arms are relaxed, tummy muscles are scooped up. Imagine there's a bar there that you don't want to touch. Doesn't matter whether your hands reach the floor. By all means, you can bend those knees a little. The back of the legs feel too tight. Please don't let your knees crash together though. We're going to restack. Scooping up the tummy, I'd like you to imagine that your tummy muscles are pushing your spine up from inside the body. One brick at a time, relaxed arms. Let the shoulders drop down into place and the head comes up last. We'll do that again. Breathe in at the top. Exhale. Keep the core muscles zipped up. Drop the arms forwards. Allow yourself to collapse. You can close your eyes whilst you're doing this if you want to. Again, that's that mind and body connection. You can visualise the spine stretching out maybe. Softening the knees as you fold over. You might be surprised you can go a little further this time. Let's scoop up the tummy and rebuild. Slowly but surely. Building yourself back up to the top. In a normal class you'd do a couple more of those. I'm going to move on though. So breathe in at the top. Exhale, chin to chest. Drop the arms forwards. Take yourself down slowly, keep the tummy scooped up, relax the arms. When you need to, bend the knees and take hands and knees to the floor. We're going to go into some mild press-ups. You can stay with the knees under the hips if you want to. Take your hands wider than your mat, tummy in, nice straight back, let your body weight tip forward slightly, nose comes towards the floor. Notice how I'm not collapsing my chest to the floor. Keeping my bottom tucked under, keeping that ab connection, taking the nose towards the floor, tipping the body weight forward slightly. If you know you're a bit on the stronger side, you can take your hands further forwards, come forward so you're on the area above the kneecap, and then you're taking a lot more weight down, but still no collapsing through the chest. Core muscles are in. Breathe. Nice and slow and controlled. Normally we do that rolling up to standing, rolling back down, going back into the press ups a few times before it would bring us down to the floor. So, we're going to go into a move called tabletop now. Hands are directly underneath the shoulders, knees are directly underneath the hips. See how the back is nice and straight. I'm not sagging, but equally I'm not bunching up towards the ceiling. Remember the length through the neck. We want to keep the neck free all the time. So we're going to take opposite hand to foot this time. Core muscles in. Breathe in to prepare. As you breathe out, slide the fingers forward and the toes back. If you feel stable, you can float fingers and toes an inch or two off the floor. Melt down and slide back. Be very subtle when you change over to the other side. Sliding, floating if you feel confident enough, melting down. But notice how my back doesn't buckle and I don't lift the legs super high. I'm only lengthening a little way. Also, the shoulder doesn't come out of place, it stays down away from my ear. As you gain in confidence, you can take the arm and leg higher, so long as, of course, your back stays straight and there's no dropping, there's no buckling, core muscles are holding everything firm. This move you can take on to reaching out to the side as well, but that's a much more advanced level. Okay. Seated move now. This is called spine twist. Now the original move has your legs out to the side. Depending on your level, you can actually have your legs wherever you want them to be. They can be crossed, they can be one in, one out. Doesn't really matter, so long as you are able to sit tall. Basically, if you were sitting and trying to do this move like this, that's absolutely no good. It's putting all of the pressure on the lower back. Core muscles aren't really able to do anything. So if you find yourself in this kind of a position with your back, you must sit on some kind of a cushion so that you're able to sit very, very upright and you stay upright throughout. So you choose the leg position that suits you best, that enables you to sit up tall with or without a cushion. Then you're going to take your fingertips quite close to your chest. Fingers and thumbs touch onto the sternum, shoulders down. So make that connection underneath the shoulder blades, pulling into the waist, that area that we drew in earlier with thumbs and fingers. So breathe in to prepare. As you breathe outward, you take your upper body round to one side. You might not go very far, so don't worry. Breathe in to come back, breathe out to go to the other side. But recognise that it's just the upper body that's moving. Try and switch off the legs. You might find that your heel wants to press into the floor. The bottom might clench to try and help push and lever you round. The idea is we're trying to isolate the waist to force the waist muscles to move independently, to rotate the upper body round and round. So for this move you would progress it up to taking the arms out. The longer the lever, the heavier it is. But notice how I'm not looking over my shoulder, I'm not taking my arms around further. They're staying nice and wide. My chest is still the centre between my hands. Shoulders down. Don't sag back. Nice and tall. So that's another one of the common moves that we use. I'm going to show you through one more, and I'm going to take you up all the way through the levels. You're not expected to try them all, obviously, though. So we're going to lie down on our back. Most people would want a cushion, men especially, because they're a little bit more muscular than women, but everyone's different. And if you find that you're constantly looking up to the ceiling with your chin, it means you need a pillow. You need to be able to draw that chin under to lengthen through the back of the neck. So for most moves when we're lying down, your knees must be at a right angle. Be quite precise with that. Your knees at a right angle. Your pelvis, once again, is in that neutral position. There's a natural little curve to your lower back. You can safely tilt your back down into the floor a little if you want to, But what you must never ever do is allow your back to arch. As I showed you earlier, that means that the tummy muscles have let go, they've elongated, they're not supporting, and your back is doing all of the work. You never want that to happen. So if when we go through this move, you find that that's happening, please bring the legs down. So when you're neutral, we use the bucket analogy when we're standing. When we're seated, think of a tray of drinks sitting across your pelvis. Don't spill any of the drinks. So pelvis is in neutral, core muscles are switched on, knees at a right angle, fingertips for the moment on your hip bones. I'd like you to breathe in to prepare. As you breathe out, contract those tummy muscles and float one leg in the air. Your knee is still at a right angle, the knee is above the hip, and the foot is level with the knee. Keep that right angle at the knee, breathe in, melt the foot down, breathe out, take the other foot up, and hover that knee. Breathe in and go down. So we're breathing out to float, breathing in to go down. Notice how the movement comes from the hip, doesn't come from the knee. Now as you walk the legs up and down, I want you to think about the tummy. Is it still constantly switched on? Is the back still in neutral? Now your fingers are going to tell us whether the pelvis is moving from side to side when you swap the feet over. If you're a pure beginner, then it's likely that they will. Your brain's natural reaction will be to push into the foot and your pelvis will tilt from one side to the other. I'm slightly over-exaggerating it here, but this is what you might be feeling. I want you to stop that pelvis from moving. So tighten underneath the belly button. Keep the feet very light on the floor. You might find that your back wants to arch. That's where you need to tighten down a little bit more on those tummy muscles. Push the back a little flatter into the floor to stop the back from arching. So if you're finding this is really challenging, please do not go to the two-leg version. Okay, so if you're finding this is manageable and you can keep the pelvis still, try this. Breathe out to float one leg. As you breathe out, actively press down a little with your back and float the other. There shouldn't be a sudden jolt. So if I take it back down again, and I'll do it incorrectly for you. One leg up, other leg up. See, there was no connection. My back took everything. My back is arched. There's a big gap here, and my tummy is slightly bulging upwards. We want to avoid that at all costs, because that's really not very good for your back. So breathe out to float one leg, breathe in, prepare, tighten into the core muscles, flatten the back a little if you need to, and float the other leg. And then you breathe in to go down and down. That needs some practice. Go over it as many times as you wish. I'm going to go on to the next move. Floating the leg up, you can rest your hands on the floor now. Breathe out to stretch the leg forwards. Again, you're challenging your core muscles to stay tight. The lower the leg goes, the harder it is to keep that core intact. Breathe in to come back, breathe out to stretch. So what you don't want to happen is for the body to follow that leg, and the back arches, creates a big gap. You want to keep that gap closed down a little bit as you stretch the leg. Okay. Add in the arms, you breathe out, toes go forward, fingers go back. As they return, the arms can sweep round to the side if you wish. Breathe out to lengthen, breathe in to come back. Now notice about the arms this time, my chest is not popping upwards as my arms go back. My back, the back of the ribs, is still completely in contact with the floor. So the core muscles are staying tight to keep the torso in place. You can, of course, do a two-leg version of this one, two legs in the air, back stays in neutral, you alternate the legs. One leg goes there and back with the arms, then the other leg goes there and back with the arms. And the more advanced, you can send two legs and two arms away as well. So you can quickly build it up to a harder level if you want to. So that's just a few of the very basic moves. Obviously there's loads more moves that you can be doing in a Pilates class, but I'm hoping that that's just given you a little bit of an insight to make you want to come to one of my classes and enjoy Pilates as much as I do. Okay, take care, hope to see you soon.